Saberspark has responded to the allegations levied against him, which we read in full in the first part of this series. In his video, he completely denies the SA story, saying that it never happened at all, along with going after Brony Fandont, the original poster, and I Love Kim Possible a Lot, the woman who made the expose video, which she deleted, saying that they both completely botched the story, along with claiming he believes they did everything maliciously in order to attack him. In the video, he shows segments of a heated email exchange that happened between himself and I Love KP a Lot a couple months back, where it's also revealed that there were talks of a romantic relationship between the two. But he also posted an archive of this email interaction in full, and man does it get crazy. On top of this, the internet is somewhat split on Saber's response, with many accepting that the SA case may very well be fake, but a select few wishing that he would address his defense of Black Griffin, a friend of his who also has allegations against him. Welcome to the internet versus Saberspark's response. It starts when Saberspark tweets out his video with the caption, "My response to recent events." And of course, if you haven't watched it, it will be linked in the description. But Mello replies by saying, "See, it's happening yet again. Like, someone makes an allegation, almost everyone believes it, then a response video comes out, and people shift to believe the response. This is why I don't do fandoms anymore. Bunch of young people that believe everything." Hot Wheels Jack replies, "So it's another quite situation then." Nobody that you know quote-tweets Saber by saying, "At the end of the day, no matter what you think, it's still fucked up to cheer for serious accusations just because you don't like that person. Just saying," and attaches an image of a tweet that we read in the first part, where someone's celebrating saying, "Saberspark exposed? This is the greatest day of my life." Creature of the Garden quotes Saber by saying, "Popular creator known to defend P named Black Griffin has SA allegations. Fans, I won't pick a side. Victim's testimony gets misused for clout by the YouTuber they trusted to talk about it properly. Creator responds to say, I didn't do it. Fans, I knew he was innocent. The video doesn't even address his own allegations to disprove them at all. He sneaks in another defense of Black Griffin, talks about how his editor was a scumbag to divert attention from himself, points fingers at the YouTuber for making a shitty call out, and that's it. Nothing in the video proves that he didn't SA that person. He doesn't even directly talk about it or prove his innocence in any way. It's just one big, don't look at me, look how this YouTuber botched the call out, as if the victim wasn't upset about that too. All of his fans went, I don't know, I'm gonna wait until he responds until I can believe a victim. Then he responded with a nothing burger statement, just claiming he didn't do anything without any proof of his innocence, and they ate it up." And Lead Pipe replies, "If the alleged victim can't have evidence of it because it was such a long time ago, then why would Saber have it?" And it tweets out a screenshot of Saberspark's response video, captioning it, "Saber just posted a response to the allegations." And an 18-year-old on Twitter replies, "Bro may be a serial gooner, but anyone who tried to shun him for these false allegations owe him an apology, myself included." And Trey replies, "I can't believe innocence until proven guilty is non-existent on Twitter." Zeus the Doodler says, "The allegations are fake, but he still defends his P friend, so." And an 18-year-old replies, "Yeah, he still isn't innocent for that." Quartzy tweets out, "So the Saberspark allegations were false." And Creep replies, "Fuck." And Kay says, "So you're pissed that someone didn't get R'd? You should probably start questioning yourself, dude." Frank Z also tweets out a screenshot of the response saying, "Y'all, he just dropped a response to the allegations." And Beneficial Gamer says, "The dumbest part of the allegations for me was the part where after both essays, Saber held out his hand and said, 'Friends?' Like, who the fuck does that?" And Harley TBS quote tweets Frank by saying, "I need you guys to wait for a response from the person being accused of monstrous shit before you put it all over Twitter as a fact. Are we serious? When did it become normal for a gimmick account to platform allegations to millions of users? If it gets proven wrong, I'll take this down. You shouldn't be tweeting that a person did vile shit before it's been proven. What an awful gimmick." And it shows Santa Decides correct version saying, "Saberspark is on the naughty list. Vile shit. If it gets proven wrong, I will take this down and you can disregard everything I said." With it also having 47,000 likes and 3 million views. Comic Book Reader posts the response video on the YouTube drama subreddit. Your local manager says, "I wish he included more evidence, bro. The original claim had almost zero evidence. And we know that because of the stream Kim Possible did saying that this was all hearsay. And we also know that because the alleged victim and Kim Possible knew this information for almost a year and were both completely fine interacting with Saber on Twitter. And for almost a month, Kim Possible was attempting to hype up, 'Oh shit, this is gonna break the internet.' But he didn't provide evidence of him not doing what is alleged. I'm sorry, but you have to thank Kim Possible again for that shit. Because of how terrible the video is and awfully she conducted herself, all Saber has to do is point, and people will automatically see that she is a doofus with a grudge." But what about Black Griffin? I don't know why on earth he'd be talking about someone's allegations in his own video responding to his own allegations. Look, deadass, I think Saberspark is a weird gooner. The entire community he came up with are just as bad. But if anything, his response video shows how significantly KP fucked up by not not getting the alleged victim justice they deserve. And Salavtor says, I'm not at the liberty of defending him, but the response to the allegations is good. For those curious, no, he doesn't address Black Griffin stuff. As a matter of fact, the last few minutes are him talking about abuse victims around the world. To clarify, he mentions him at 13 minutes and 20 seconds and nothing else. We will probably never see him enlighten us about the Black Griffin, and he's more than likely firm on his stance on defending him. Saber did the right thing to defend himself as there was no evidence towards him, but Griffin has had so much evidence come out over the span of the past few months. In fact, there was a whole month where new things came out weekly about him. The last few minutes of this video have no weight, and I hope Saber acknowledges that people are going to give him a lot of shit for it. In space, Fluttershy replies, pretty fucked up that he doesn't even touch on those impacted by Black Griffin at all. He's apparently all for standing up for victims, except for when they're victims of his best bud. Like, regardless of the truthfulness of the allegations against Saberspark specifically, his adamant defense of his racist predator buddy has been enough to sour him in my eyes already. And Salaptor says, here's a quote during his last couple minutes. There are consequences for those actions and we have to take those matters seriously or more people will get hurt. There are actual victims of SA in the world and stuff like this detracts from those who really need the help. So combine that with a screenshot of him defending BG and oh boy. MrEnter tweets out, yes, I have seen Saberspark's response video. And JC Denton replies, what's your thoughts on it? And MrEnter says, you will know soon enough. Josh tweets out, Saberspark today, showing this comic of someone flinging shit with the caption, lying about freedom tunes for clout and to try to get them canceled, and then shit getting flown back at them. Oh no, someone is lying about me for clout and trying to get me canceled. And Fresher Luke replies, he's still going with this shit. And Josh says, I saw his video about it today, and almost every single point that he makes about what his accuser is doing to him is something that he had done to freedom tunes. The hypocrisy is just astounding. Ellie says, are you really comparing his opinion on cartoons to real accusations? Grow up. And Josh replies, he literally tried to cancel freedom tunes by heavily implying that the team is racist. That's a lot more than cartoon opinions. You literally don't know what you're talking about. Alistor tweets out, Saberspark has now entered the Hall of the Hollowed Few who were accused of SA/grooming, but effectively blew the accusations out of the water with receipts. I salute you, Saber. And Every Cafe replies, he has joined the ranks of George Not Found, Slazo, Zaptai, Pyro, Gillymaster, J Schlatt, and more. People who disproved allegations against them, clearing their name. Massive Saber W. And Parlo replies, take Pyrocynical the fuck off there. Now, the email exchange that Saberspark showed slightly in his video was linked in full in the description, and this whole thing gets messy with talks about Chris, the former editor that KP was upset by, along with what seems to be her saying what the inappropriate joke was that Chris made to her many years ago. And Saber and KP go back and forth whether they were and or weren't romantically interested in each other, with Saber threatening to get lawyers involved due to KP's posts and, as he says, misinformation. The first email is from KP to Saberspark in January 2025 with the title, Aficionados Chris SH Case. Good afternoon, Steven. This email is your requested private communication regarding Chris and the overall SH situation that he has caused. Our full incident report can be found here if needed. Since you publicly displayed confusion at best about my attempted communication with you prior to this point, below are screenshots of my conversation with Redacted, aka the friends/employees I passed Chris's information to. The conversation with Redacted specifically mentions a possible staffing change through Redacted based on Chris's actions, and I honestly cannot fathom a situation where there would be that drastic of an employee change or discussion without your knowledge. Screenshots can be found here, here, and here. I do not appreciate you calling me a liar publicly, and I would like some form of public apology. Additionally, your public statement states that you knew the confrontation between me and Chris was recorded as a matter of community safety, combined with your email interactions with DA Games, leads me to believe that, unless there was some major miscommunication, you are aware of the situation and that you have chosen inaction. You still have the choice to either hold Chris accountable, i.e. firing him with proof, or keep him on staff. Should you choose the former, please communicate this to me as soon as possible to avoid any miscommunication and any public statement/information presented after. If you believe this is only a one-time incident, this document linked below has logged some of Chris's other inappropriate behavior, including but not limited to making up bestiality jokes to someone he knew was a minor, the use of the N-word, and imagery with himself and Will of DA Games. You can find more information on page 4 and 29 of this document. I've been given clearance to show unedited screenshots of the bestiality incident if requested. I hope that we can clearly communicate about this going forward. I have no desire to get into an internet squabble with you, so let's please work this out as adults. The second email is again from KP to Saberspark, this time talking about employees and how Saber had a romantic interest in her, and it starts with her saying, Steven, it is clear to me you do not wish to correspond with any direct communication, despite you personally requesting so. To say I am disappointed by your behavior would be a severe understatement. You called me a liar publicly without even asking for the truth or farther clarification. My understanding is that you have jerked around your employees and generally treated them with very little consideration, especially redacted. The horror stories I have heard about repeated employee reforms going unhonored, to you requesting redacted to move states for a project only to disregard it after he and redacted moved, shows me how little you really care about your friends/employees. I am also friends with redacted's ex-partner as well, and the emotional stress you put both of them through via your carelessness is unacceptable and selfish. This, on top of your treatment of me when you were romantically/sexually interested in me, which I'm happy to elaborate on, combined with your inquiries of hosting polygamous relationships with fangirls to employees, is misogynistic, inappropriate, and disrespectful. To me, it seems that the only reason why you wanted to get involved is that your name was attached, and you're more interested in damage control for your brand than your brand's actual integrity. I feel like we wouldn't even be having this conversation if I was not another YouTuber in your space. I hoped that you could be a professional about this going forward, even though, frankly, you haven't been through this entire nightmare ordeal. But clearly, that is not possible. So, see you around, kid. Rachel/KP. Attached are the previous images I tried to send earlier since they didn't go through for some reason, not that you seem to partially care. And Saberspark responds to the email by saying, "Hey Rachel, to start things off, I replied to on Twitter the way I did out of frustration due to the misinformation you have about me and how you were talking about me without ever contacting me directly prior. I'd imagine you'd feel the same frustration if someone had incorrect info about you, and you probably do with how some people went after you in the past with false information. I truly don't want to engage in internet drama that operates off of gossip, but the amount of misinformation you have is staggering, so I will set the record straight. I'll begin by saying that the information you have about me, redacted, is 100% incorrect and can be objectively proven false. Unfortunately, it sounds like redacted has vented his opinions and frustrations with the conclusion of redacted people in his circle, but to say it was misinformation is a far cry from the truth, and I have the pay stubs and messages to back that up. I paid for his move, I assisted with his rent, I paid for his salary, and I personally packed up the U-Haul and drove him back to redacted after we both mutually agreed to end our project. I offered to launch the collaboration at the time, redacted. You probably didn't know that, but I have messages to back that up clear as day. Also, redacted never moved, and I can have him testify personally to the fact. He's in a call with me right now. He currently works for me as one of my team leads, so if you think he believes he's been mistreated, I think you'll be surprised. Again, your information is incorrect, so if you plan on holding it against me, you need to hit the brakes or you will be called out accordingly. I take incredible care of my workers and pay them a living wage, and I'm ready to fight to prove that with my CPA and all of my receipts that I have for tax purposes. As far as you and me, I'm dumbfounded. We hung out and that was it. I'm not sure what you saw in hanging out with me, but we just went our separate ways. Also, I have no clue about hosting polygamous relationships with fangirls. Not sure where you got that from, but maybe the same source that incorrectly said I mistreated redacted. Again, I'm reaching out to them to wholeheartedly condemn that hearsay. All in all, I feel blindsided by your emails, Rachel. They reek of bad faith and incorrect information. How can you say that you came to me as an impartial individual? As far as Chris goes, I heard through secondhand sources, the ones you pursued via redacted of his stupid joke, that Chris made amends with you and that was the end of it, only for me to get accusatory emails months later. You never reached out to me officially, so how could I know anything besides what Chris told me? Again, you're operating off of incorrect information and through secondhand accounts and people to build a bad faith case against me. I implore you to wait and hear things out from redacted. You have 100% objectively incorrect information that I can disprove through receipts and corroborated accounts. Finally, I do have a lawyer and I will gladly bring him into our conversation to clear the air if needed. Now that it has come to this degree of misinformation on your end, I will do everything in my power to clear the record for the truth, and that includes exploring legal avenues if necessary. I hope this information helps and convinces you to reconsider your position. Steven. And KP fires back with this email, starting with her saying, "Steven, the main issue is Chris's conduct, and you have passed the allotted time I have personally given you to deal with the situation privately by not responding to any of my concerns in my first email, which I feel is ridiculous considering you had access to this information regarding Chris for a year, regardless of where it came from. If you are now going to sit there and threaten me with legality after this many private attempts at communication, I count 6 between my first email, the Twitter thread, and via mutual contacts, I will not be entertaining any further discussion with you after this last correspondence and cutting contact with you at this point. The reality is I am incredibly uncomfortable with the general approach in which your previous email and how your public correspondence have been addressed, as well as with you in general, so I will keep this as brief as possible. To add on to this "I will fight you for the truth" tone your whole last email and the Twitter thread is drenched in undermines the actual issues of the conversation, on top of assuming I'm going to publish falsifiable information. Is that how you talk to someone who was treated poorly by a current employee in the past? Based on all of our previous conversations, forgive me if you are not at the top of the list of people who treat me with assumed respect. In regards to your response to my Twitter posting, your heated response calling me a liar and questioning my character publicly is unacceptable unacceptable. How you were particularly feeling at the time doesn't justify calling people names and treating them poorly. As well, you could have DM'd me as requested several times or asked for further information before responding in such a tone. When all I asked regarding this exchange is for you to apologize publicly for something you did publicly, you instead doubled down in your last message and tried to justify your feelings, and only privately at that. That doesn't strike me as someone who is dealing with this situation with the utmost maturity, but a desperate attempt to distract from the actual issues and make yourself the victim. The fact that you were going about this route again after I had to prove I wasn't lying the first time is fucking deranged. Regarding your access to the information around the incident regarding Chris, and your insistence that I was the one who directly discussed the information about Chris instead of your general access to said information seems to be misguided. Do I have to directly tell you what to do with an employee incident of this scale for anything to happen? I shared the confirmation I had from both redacted and redacted that you had said information, which came off as indifference based on what I felt, as well as your correspondence to DA Games alluding as such, as well as there being a public safety report available with public contact information present for a year regarding the situation. So I don't understand how it is particularly relevant how you learned your employee's SH to someone in the past. It just matters that it happened. Even assuming you didn't know about Chris's actions up until the Twitter exchange, I still emailed you directly to discuss it before it reached this point, and you seemingly ignored that email and only responded to a second after my frustration became clearer. To be frank, it also doesn't matter how the perpetrator feels how the resolution went, but the fact that it happened in the first place is unacceptable. Chris is very obviously going to tell you whatever you need to hear to keep his job. It's alright guys, the criminal said the crime actually wasn't so bad after all. Hell, it doesn't even matter how I feel about it. Still, if you were so concerned with my personal opinion on the matter, to the point whether it would directly dictate your decision to keep Chris on the staff or not, I do not, for the life of me, understand why you didn't reach out to me, directly or indirectly, through our friends. Regardless, this isn't a joke, and your insistence as such is the underlying problem in this whole situation. How is it a fucking joke to say you finished on your boss's clothing and tell that to other men multiple times? It cannot and should not be belittled as just drama. Why would I have gone through the trouble of corresponding with DA Games or having a safety report be written if I just thought it was just a joke? I was and am worried about the children Chris and the greater DA Games community still have access to. Even if I had forgiven Chris for some reason, it wouldn't be relevant. Even still, you seem to show anger that I got Chris's confession on record in comparison to, you know, what he actually confessed to, with your comment stating, "Are you going to record the call without telling me the same way you did Chris?" To be clear, he is not the victim. Full stop. Neither are you for that matter, Mr. Truth Seeker. Publicly throwing the actual recipient under the bus and siding with the SHer just because he did not know he would be on the record as a safety concern, on top of being incorrect about your information, is one of the most idiotic parts about this whole ordeal. I felt it was very obvious that the intention was a recording for the public record, and a possible angle and interpretation of him being blindsided for a bad joke turned public only because I want to be a bitch and cause problems. It's just insulting and disrespectful on so many levels. Or, how you put it, publicly discussing half-truths to gain sympathy and slander your name. Additionally, the fact that I went out of my way to privately talk to you directly after several attempts to seek resolution with the staff and what I have asked on the Twitter thread, and still did not receive a response until sending a second email outlining my frustration, is just ridiculous. I then even provided additional proof of the racism and imagery that Chris and Will displayed. There are even incidents of /P and sharing that material with minors, allegedly accidentally, in the document I linked, as well as Will dating a minor in 2015. This additional document has been publicly available for longer. The DA Games community server has had Ps that were quietly kicked out if/when discovered, instead of publicly acknowledged. One has a motherfucking mugshot on the document. Since this all seems to have gone ignored until now, on top of the safety report of the incident being publicly available for a year, solidifies to me my original assumption that you do only care when you have consequences for your lack of action. God forbid someone is a creep on my staff, just don't tell the public he works for me. Does it not seem like common sense to fire someone who talks this way about others, especially women, regardless of when it happened? Regarding Redacted, he has expressly asked not to be involved in any further discussion regarding this topic, and the comments about Redacted moving was a misreading on when I stated general mistreatment. I'm honestly upset you even shared the email I sent with him and your staff at large, and my general distaste of the situation in private communications were not an invitation for open discussion with your whole staff team, as my multiple DMs from others seemed to tell me. Additionally, Redacted were under the impression that they were going to be name dropping them in an upcoming video. I would never blindly and irresponsibly name drop full names of friends in a public video, but like everything else, you could have asked about that instead of assuming the worst and reporting such to them. How you communicated assumptions on what you thought is or was happening and shared that information has added to my reservations to continue discussing Chris or the situation with you in a mature tone, and privately villainizing me to our friends based on your personal assumptions is not acceptable. We can leave the other claims and general general allegations I shared on that note, but I obviously still have opinions based on the information I have been told. In the interest of openness though, I am open to do an on-the-record three-way conversation between you, Redacted, and myself to get to the truth of the matter at a later time. But that will be at your discretion, as his boss and at his comfort level, as I want to honor Redacted's request to not be involved any farther and not emotionally distress him. At the very least, the mutual decision at the end of whatever project was in the works doesn't seem like that way to me. And on top of these social and emotional implications, I do not think you are seeing, and I have the right to those opinions. But bluntly, I will not tolerate the consistent implication of untruthfulness until this happens. Redacted can reach out to me in the future if he is interested and comfortable about a possible conversation. Lastly, as I do not want to get too personal, but it is absolutely laughable that you considered your romantic interest in me and our friendship ending as mutually parting ways. Like, what fucking planet are you on? Is that how you summarize every one of your failed courtships? Let me refresh you of the experience. After months of spending time together in person and your insistence that we were just friends, it was foolish of me to take you at your word on that in hindsight. Your goal seemingly was instead to spend time with me and see if I would change my mind and be open to a romantic relationship. In that time, I felt I had finally found a like-minded content creator and friend close in distance to me. I think I even said something along the lines of, "These feel like dates. I'm just making sure we're hanging out as friends, right?" After you grew distant, I felt manipulated and pressured to say I was open to dating in order to not lose that friendship. To be 100% clear, I was never interested in you romantically in any capacity. You then dated Redacted's sister over me and had the question about my dating availability immediately after that ended. I tried to play it off but was uncomfortable with the whole situation. I guess. It felt like I was only important to you if I was dateable, and a backup option at that. Would I have been treated the same way as a new potential friend if I were male identifying? This was the whole reason I went to your staff in the first place and not you directly. I felt objectified by my direct experiences towards you and did not wish to repeat said experience for the sake of my own mental health, but you implied you needed the clarification. At this point, I feel exacerbated with the favor I have given you and others, personally and professionally, so I will be ending the conversation here. To remind you, I am not a third party in this situation trying to get a cheap and easy views off of a popular content creator. This is how Chris treated me behind my back. This is how he never owned up to those actions until I had to find out about them myself. This is how this behavior has continued. This is how the greater DA games community could be potentially harmful to children. This is on top of Chris's misogynistic, anti-Semitic behavior that I stupidly forced myself to tolerate when he worked for me, and the fact I have to sit here and fight and scream and kick for anyone to take this seriously is so emotionally draining, triggering, and insulting. This whole situation has been a nightmare, but I'm not going to sit here and let everyone else pretend it's just a joke out of public convenience. And I would bet good money that he is still on your payroll. I'm at a loss for words. Frankly, I do not have the patience or emotional bandwidth for your tone, your constant villainization, or to discuss this farther with you at this point, for your own perceived direct benefit. To be blunt, you trigger the shit out of me, Steven, and I still tried multiple times to communicate with you, but ultimately was met with silence until now. You were screaming on Twitter like a child at me after months of trying to get any kind of internal word on Chris and the information being in the public eye, and you still haven't fucking apologized for any of it. What do you think that says about your character? On top of that, only then to even be taking it seriously because I might make a video and hurt other people's reputation really shows how me being affected by all of this really matters to the long run to you. SH, use of imagery. P, find a sweep under the rug. Just don't bring it up on Twitter. To be absolutely clear, do not contact me again or involve our friends in the matter farther. Ramses, you bring this upon yourself. Then Brony Fandont, the person who originally posted the allegations, tweets, "Wait a few hours, maybe less." And at the time of this recording, it has been about 10 hours since this tweet was posted. But continuing on, Angel Bell replies, "You're cooked. It's just that simple. Probably best if you just stay off of Twitter until the heat dies down, rather than us having to hear a sob story and have you jump on people for saying, 'I told you so. The victim card is gonna go hard here.'" And Brony replies, "You're jumping the gun." And the Alicorn says, "You clearly need glasses then if you don't know how to read." Brony then tweets out, "I'm documenting your responses." And Bloombox replies, "I don't even understand how you think documenting our responses even helps." And Brony says, "People need to understand that they are reactionary and unreasonable. I don't want anyone being able to delete these posts and pretend they didn't make them." And Bloom says, "I get the point, but I feel like focusing on the situation itself is more important than a bunch of responses of a bunch of random nobodies." Plus she replies to Brony by saying, "Putting random people on blast because they rightfully criticize you for the way you handled this situation is not the one you think it is." Boosh replies to Brony by saying, "Document this." And it's this meme saying, "Blow me." And Brony says, "I have documented it." And Boosh replies again, "Document my frog next, dude." Brony continues to tweet out when he says, "I can say that neither me or Sophie were friends of KP. I know it's not the biggest problem, but it is an example of misinformation Saber puts out there." He also subtly defends Griffin again in his video. The bigger rebuttal will come soon. I think a lot of people who have been aggressively demanding no one condemn Saber Saber without proof are now taking his word without any. He did not address the allegations, aside from saying they were fake. All it takes for his response to be null and void is one thing. Give me a few hours. If nothing happens, hate me all you want. I've said all that I can for now. In a few hours, what I can't now. I have never accused anyone on this account who didn't deserve to be. Then 8 hours later, Ant replies, so where is it? And Brony says, everything that was talked about last night that I thought was happening has been fucked up due to an intervening drama channel. I hope it's today. It was supposed to be this morning. I'm trying, but it's not up to me. And Tato replies, how exactly is a drama YouTuber halting the information? If you have the details, just share it. You already screwed your position by promising it hours ago. Brony continues to tweet, I love Kimpossible a lot is a stain. I don't cover drama. I cover serious, worst of humanity problems. Predators, bigots, those who support them. KP is, to my knowledge, not that, but has still put herself in a category needing to be treated the same. Give me time. I need to gather what I can. Get permission for some of what I know to be put out if possible. I'm not trying to hype up anything. I'm trying to not say specifics without the information to go with it, but it's worse than any of you possibly know. Queen Caroline Moon replies, girl, what if IDW finds out you're making these false accusations? They'd fire you so quickly. And Brony says, no accusations were false. And Queen says, then why keep doing this shit if you truly know you could lose your job? And Brony replies, because someone was Ard. Also, you're not speaking to who you're assuming you are. And Queen says, yet you're not an artist for IDW Comics? And Brony replies, no. And Queen says, if not, then why not try to apologize to Saberspark? Because I saw his response video and KP lying was really stupid. And Brony replies, because he's an artist. And Queen says, where's the proof? Actual proof. And Brony doesn't reply, so Ugly Barn says, the proof is me. I am the proof. At the time of this recording, Brony still has not put out a statement. Subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss it, because I will make a follow-up video. Shout out to our tier 3 members, internet representatives Kiko and Salsad. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I'll see you all in the next episode.